What's going on, everybody? What is going on? It is Saturday, January 13th, 2024, and we are back live for another midday stream. If you haven't done so already, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit the like button. If you are here on YouTube, to hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. If you are new, I am multi-streaming on YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as Instagram. So as y'all can see by the thumbnail and by the title, we are going to be hitting a very heavy hitting topic today. It's a pretty dark and depressing one at that, about what's been going on down there in Mississippi with these unmarked graves. This was actually brought to my attention by one of my subscribers a few days ago. I think maybe towards the beginning of the week, and they had asked me, could I speak on it? And I said, if I did, it would have to be in the form of a live stream because it's a lot to cover. It's a lot to talk about. But I definitely wanted to acknowledge this particular topic because this could very easily get swept under the rug, although it should be a very major story. But before we go ahead and get into that, let me go ahead and acknowledge the people who are here so far in the chat. We have Irvin, Kendall, Denise, Bert, Derry, Patricia, Lloyd, Sky 9, Twin Born, James, the Atavis, Eric H, Retro Gemini, Rocco Muro, Scoop 2003, Troy Scott, The King 948, and I see The King is definitely in here trolling. Let's see, the Prince of Paraphernalia. What's going on? Well, The King, how about this? Why don't you do something about this, since apparently I'm too late to the story, because apparently everybody knows about this. Everybody apparently knows everything that's going on when it comes to this particular story. So I'm supposed to jump when you say jump. This is the shit. I didn't even mean to go off on a tangent. This is the shit right here that Harvey went off about a couple days ago when you have people coming in your goddamn comment section telling you when you should talk and when you should not talk. Get the fuck out my goddamn comment section. I didn't even want to start off this stream like that. But I had to get that off of my chest because that shit is annoying. And the crazy part about it is I literally wrote that type of comment in Harvey's comment section when he was talking about the same thing about how these individuals come over here and tell us what we should and should not talk about. It's a lot of people in here who are unaware that this was even going on. And you talking about a week ago? How about your dumbass didn't even realize that one of the victims that was found, I spoke about last year. His name was Dexter Wade. So if anybody's late to the goddamn party, it's you. But I got him out of there. This topic is already depressing as it is for someone to come in here and just throw it off like that. Anyway, back to what I was discussing. Put a 1 in the chat if this is your first time hearing about this story. Put a 2 if it is not. And shout out to the people over on Instagram because I'm kind of going back and forth. So shout out to those people who are over there, who are engaged in the chat. Sorry y'all had to hear me go off like that. Y'all know that's definitely not in my character to go off like that, but that shit just pissed me off. Now, there you go. Well, see, I already blocked him, so he probably can't even see. He probably is looking, but he can't type. He can't chat. There's a lot of twos that just came in here. There's a lot of people that did not know this was going on. And like I said, this did not just start this year. It's just now getting reported, but it's been going on for months. It is now officially 12:10. So let me go ahead and get this started. What I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that the articles were in some kind of a date order. So I tried to go back to the furthest article I could find. But trust me when I tell you, when I typed in the words Mississippi buried into Google, it was a whole laundry list of articles that popped up in between this week, last week. I think the furthest one dated back to like October when I talked about Dexter Wade. So I'm gonna go ahead now and I'm gonna actually start with the Dexter Wade one because some people may not be aware of the Dexter Wade story. Now, what's crazy is when I talked about Dexter Wade, here I am thinking that he's the only one, but then when you find out he isn't, and that he was one of the ones that was buried in these unmarked graves, it just makes it even more eerie. So I'm gonna actually just skip through the article itself and actually just play the news clip.
Last month on a man killed in Mississippi by a police officer, then buried without his family ever being notified. Now we learned a similar situation happened to another man. Here's Blaine Alexander.
For Mercedes Onachukwu, her big brother Mario Moore was one of a kind.
He was full of wisdom and charm, and he just had a personality that you did not forget easily.
His life wasn't easy. He'd spent years fighting a drug habit and could disappear for months at a time, but he would always come home. Until last month, when their sister, Marquita Moore, saw an article from NBC affiliate WLBT about homicides there in Jackson, Mississippi that had gone unreported. Mario's name was second on the list.
I just broke down. I felt just weak. and I couldn't do anything else.
According to the coroner's report, Moore was killed by blunt force trauma to the head. His body was found on the street wrapped in a tarp 8 months before his family ever knew. Then the second shock. Mario had already been buried in a pauper's grave behind the county jail.
We do not have a grave number. We don't have anything other than the coroner saying I buried his body in an undisclosed location.
For his mother, Mary Moore Glenn, the grief is unspeakable.
They put him in a bag and they just dump him in a grave like they're a dog or something. Who gives you the right to do that?
He was buried on July 14th, the very same day and location as Dexter Wade. His case sparked national outrage after NBC News first reported he was hit and killed by an off-duty Jackson police officer, then buried before his family was ever notified. His mother, Betterstein Wade, had spent more than 5 months searching for her son.
Help me understand what that time was like for you.
That time was horrible. You would lay in your bed. You would think he might have been out there suffering.
I'm going up yonder. After NBC's report, Wade's body was exhumed, and just this week, his family held the funeral he was long denied. At the time, Jackson's mayor called it a failure in communication. The Jackson Police Department has not responded to our requests for comment on either case. A police commander told Moore's family an officer left a business card at their mother's home, which they say they never saw.
If my son had committed a crime out there, I said, you all will be coming knocking at my door. And if you didn't get anybody, you would have come back. Again.
Mario's family held a memorial service for him, but it has not stopped the questions. His homicide is still unsolved. Blaine Alexander, NBC News.
Okay, so y'all just heard, or well, saw and heard that news clip right there. So as you can see, this one covered 2 stories. This covered a man by the name of Mario Terrell, which I didn't even know about. I didn't even know about him. I thought this news clip was only going to be about Dexter Wade because, again, I had spoke about Dexter Wade last October. I think it was October when I spoke about him. Somewhere in that region, I believe I was talking about him in one of my live streams. But I didn't know about this Mario Terrell one. Now, if you remember, if you saw the date in the news clip where they said that he went missing, it was in February of last year. We're coming up on a year. It was in February, and they said his family didn't find out about his body or him being deceased until like 6 months later. Just like Dexter Wade. Mother thinks that he just went missing. She used a lot of her resources to try to look for her son. The whole time she's looking for a corpse and doesn't even realize it because, again, they buried him. And then they said when they found Mario Terrell, they said he had blunt force trauma to the head. So he was hit with something. He just didn't fall over and die. So that means he was killed, but they buried him. But what makes this story, well, both of these stories so scary is the fact that they were not the only 2 that they found. So I'm going to go ahead now and move to this next article coming from the Associated Press that was posted on December 11th, 2023. And it says, 3rd Mississippi man is buried in a pauper's grave without the family's knowledge. This one, his name is Jonathan David Hankins. He was 39 years old. I'm going to read to you what it says. A 3rd man in Mississippi has been discovered buried in a pauper cemetery without his relatives' knowledge. And despite authorities knowing the identities of the deceased, it is the latest case in which families learned of their deceased loved one's death from news reports instead of from officials in Hinds County, Mississippi, according to civil rights attorney Ben Crump. Jonathan David Hankins, age 39, is the 3rd person to have been quietly buried in the pauper cemetery near the Hinds County Penal Farm in suburban Jackson, said Crump, who represents the families. Jonathan David Hankins' family has been desperately seeking answers about their loved one's disappearance for more than a year. Now, to find out from news reports that his body was found in the same county where Dexter Wade's body was buried after being struck by a police cruiser raises disturbing questions. Hankins was first reported missing in June 2022, but his family did not learn of his death or burial until News.com reporters told them about it December 4th of last year. So check that out. They first reported him missing in June of 2022, but they did not get wind or word that he was buried until well over a year later. You're talking about like a year and a half later. Hankins was found dead in a Jackson hotel room on May 23rd, 2022. Investigators confirmed his identity, but the Hinds County Coroner's Office and the Jackson Police Department failed to tell his family. While Hankins was found to have had methamphetamine and fentanyl in his system, the death certificate didn't include that finding. Reached by phone on Monday, a Hinds County Coroner's Office employee said she would pass along a message to the coroners requesting comment. Scrutiny of burials near the Hinds County Penal Farm in Raymond, Mississippi accelerated after the August discovery of Dexter Wade's body. Wade, age 37, died on March 5th after an off-duty Jackson Police Department officer struck him with a department SUV while Wade was walking across Interstate 55. His mother said it was late August before she learned her son had been killed and buried. Wade's body was exhumed on November 13th and an independent autopsy was conducted. A wallet was found in the jeans Wade was buried in contained his state identification card with his home address, credit card, and health insurance card. He was given a proper funeral attended by more than 200 people, including U.S. Representative Benny Thompson and Al Sharpton. On November 20th. On December 1st, Crump's office said another man, 40-year-old Mario Moore, was buried in the same field without his family's knowledge. Moore was beaten to death and found wrapped in a tarp on February 2nd. His body was kept in the Hinds County morgue until he was buried in Pauper's grave on July 14th. Moore's family did not learn about his death until 8 months after he was killed. NBCNews.com reported that a Hinds County coroner report indicated that office tried to call Mario's brother, but the phone number, quote unquote, didn't work. The media outlet also reported that police told the family a detective's car was left at Mario's mother's house. None of the family members recalled being contacted. Crump has called for a federal investigation into the burials. Families that report a loved one missing deserve immediate and accurate answers, he said. So now, by this time, y'all, we are up to 3. But man, oh man, if they only knew how many more they had to go. Let me see what y'all talking about in the chat. Patricia said, I hope I'm wrong, but I believe this is organ harvesting and the powers that be is not worried because it's not their loved ones. I wouldn't be surprised. What they should do, like they should have said, like if when they do autopsies, was to see were all of their organs intact. Did it look like they were like trying to hollow out their bodies? And that'll determine it right there for you. See, it's about a way. Melanin sells for approximately $550 a gram. Who else has melanin? Right. A lot of people are saying they believe that it could have been organ harvesting. Strong possibility there. It wouldn't be the first time. It definitely would not be the first time. I have done stories on my channel before in the past where they have taken out black people and some of them organs were missing. Just to put them right out there on the black market. Light Vision says, nah, this is not y'all. There weren't any organs missing. That's what I was saying. I mean, you know, exactly. That's what I was saying as well. I said if there were, they would have, it definitely would have had to have been mentioned. But y'all, this was only number 3. But imagine if that number jumped from 3 to over 200. Imagine finding out that your loved ones weren't the only ones. There were plenty and several others.
an unsettling situation in Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, to be exact. It's been revealed 215 bodies were buried in unmarked graves behind a state jail in Jackson, of course. Attorney Ben Crump is now calling for an investigation. Families of the dead reportedly had no idea until last month. Some of them, those grave sites were only labeled by a number and a metal rod. Joining us to talk about it, activist Arthur Silky Slim Reed, who also works with Ben Crump.
So, Arthur, this started with Dexter Wade's case back in March, right? He was an individual who was hit by a police officer, and his family thought he was simply missing, but he was dead and buried, and no one notified them.
Well, the thing about it is that he had identification on him, Isaiah, and the medical examiner gave it to the lead detective, who said he called, didn't get an answer, and they didn't worry about doing anything else. What we're finding, Isaiah, is that Mississippi is Mississippi. It's an ugly Mississippi. And this is sad because now we have 6 other individuals that has been put into the same grave. And if you look at the video from when we first went to that site, buzzards were flying overhead. And we were trying to figure out, why are the buzzards flying overhead? But it's because they're putting them in shallow graves, and the only thing that they're putting them in is a body bag without embalming the bodies. So the stench from the bodies are drawing buzzards there. It's so inhumane for anybody to do anyone like that, Isaiah, is just horrible is what we can say. And that's not even a word that we should use in a situation like this. It's something that we haven't seen.
And what we're seeing here is over 200 people in this, what they consider a pauper's grave behind the county jail there. And what you guys are learning in your investigation is many of these families were never called, were never notified. Many of them still think their family members or thought their family members were simply missing, but they were dead and buried and never got a call from any investigators, any law enforcement officials or authorities in Jackson, Mississippi.
That's right. And one of the things that we faced being Mississippi is that they thought that we were playing the race card. We have white clients as well. There were white people that were buried the same way, Isaiah. And any human being that's buried the way that they're burying these individuals, it says a lot about the people that's doing this criminal act. And the only thing that we're asking, because people always look at us when we're out fighting for civil rights of individuals, the only thing that we're asking in this case, we want you to do the right thing and give them a humane burial. And the city is, so it's crazy, Isaiah, to see something like that. It's 2023. It's not 1940. But to see them just dumping bodies in a grave like that, and no name, just a number. So they'll say, well, number 13, that's Arthur Reed. Number 21 is Isaiah Carey. But we don't really know until we get the remains. And then the remains had decomposed so bad, we just have to take them at their word. And when you look at the story, they told us that they would exhume this body at 12 noon, but they ended up taking this young man, Dexter Wade, out of the ground at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. They say, we were not going to allow them to embarrass us with those cameras. If you're not embarrassed by what you're doing, it's shame on you.
Absolutely incredible. Now, you guys, along with Ben Crump and I think Attorney Dennis Week, you all are asking for a federal investigation, that the feds come in and take a look at this and see exactly what's going on, because there's some questions as to Dexter Wade's death when he was hit by the police officer. Whatever happened with the officer in this case? And why wasn't his family ever notified that he was dead and not just a missing person? So bottom line, you want an investigation, right?
We think many civil rights were violated in Dexter Wade's case, not notifying the family, burying him without permission when you knew who he was. That's the key issue right there. You knew who this individual was. And if you look at the Dexter Wade case, it's sad, but Dexter Wade's uncle was killed by Jackson police, and they knew the family because they was involved in an ongoing lawsuit with the family with Attorney Sweets, who you're talking about. So this is very, very, very troubling for us for you to know this family already, and for you to do something like this. This was adding insult to already injury that you had done to this family, Isaiah.
Okay, so that was, hold on, let me refresh this right quick before it tries to autoplay on me. Okay, so y'all just heard that news clip right there. That is absolutely insane. And I was looking at the chat. Y'all was mentioning the Devil's Punch Bowl. Took me back to last year when I was doing my Black Massacre series, and the Devil's Punch Bowl was one of my early episodes. And ironically, where did that happen at? In Mississippi. This is basically a modern day Devil's Punch Bowl. I should have titled the video that, but that's basically what it's shaping up to be like. And when he was mentioning the thing about the buzzers, that sent chills through my body. I can only imagine what the site was like when they had to dig that out, and they didn't have far to dig because they were shallow graves. They weren't buried 6 feet deep. I wonder how deep they were buried. Not that far into the ground, I can tell you that. But yeah, it's definitely some inside stuff going on out there, and I definitely wholeheartedly believe that the law enforcement down there for sure have a hand in it. But the question still remains is, how were they able to do this quote unquote undetected? Who was turning off those cameras? Who was turning a blind eye? People down there know something, but they ain't saying, because there's no way you can tell me that 215 bodies that were found, is no way you can sit there and tell me that all of those were buried undetected. It's no way you can tell me that. None. Remember how I told you that they are their ancestors? I present to you Exhibit A through Z. So now I'm going to go on to this next article right here that's coming off of Blavity that was posted January 9th, 2024. Hold on, y'all. Turn the share screen off. My bad. Over 200 bodies found buried near Mississippi jail in predominantly Black county. Key words there, y'all. In a predominantly Black county. A gruesome revelation in Mississippi is alarming residents of the state and raising calls for an investigation. After over 200 bodies were buried near a local jail in a predominantly Black county, questions are growing over who these people are, how they died, and how they ended up in bare graves behind the jail. I mean, we can pretty much have our own speculations of who's doing it. Listen to look at the location. It's behind a local jail. And notice it didn't say in an abandoned local jail, a local jail that's still very much in operation, which means people work there. So how people did not know this was going on, that's some bullshit. The Chicago Crusader reported that the 215 people discovered buried in Pauper Cemetery behind a jail in Hinds County make up a multi-ethnic group of people who were Black, white, Hispanic, and Native Americans. These individuals lay buried in simple gray. It's funny that they mention all these other groups, but we only saw one other white person be acknowledged here. The rest were Black, at least the ones that they put out there. But okay. These individuals lay buried in simple graves marked only with metal rods and numbers, even as some of their relatives searched for them or reported them missing. Reverend Hosea Hines, who leads Jackson's Christ Tabernacle Church, is and is the head of the New Day Coalition for Equity in Black America, has called for an investigation. It really saddens my heart to know that their relatives went that long, some over a year, not knowing if their loved ones were dead or alive, and then coming to the realization that they had been buried in a grave behind a jailhouse. Mississippi authorities have been under scrutiny for their burial and notification policy since it was revealed that Dexter Wade was struck and killed by a police vehicle and buried without notifying his mother, who spent months looking for her son while authorities declined to tell her that he had died. A report about the case revealed that a black man, Mario Moore, had been killed in a separate incident and buried on the same day and at the same location as Wade, again without his family being notified. The cases of Wade and Moore were part of a series of reports by NBC News on failures in the death notification systems used by authorities. This report eventually led the news organizations to obtain county coroner's records for Hinds County, which led the identification of 215 people who have been buried in the pauper cemetery since 2016. So look at that. Look at how far back that is. Since 2016. So you're talking for 8 years. The last 8 years, it'll be after this will be 8 years. 8 years. So for anybody who thinks they just started doing this last year, no, it's that it just started to be reported last year. But they said they've been putting them in these graves since 2016. So don't sit up here and tell me that they didn't know about this. This is a whole operation they have been going on for damn near a decade. Dwayne said 2016, I'm sure there's more bodies. Definitely. I don't know if y'all caught it, but in one of the news clips that I showed, one of the markers that had a number on it says 672. Remember, they marked the graves by numbers, as in whatever number it was the representative of the body that you were. So if that thing is 672, then they need to up this number. Is way past 200. It's just that the 215 that they're reporting on are the ones that they have dug up, which means there's way, way more than 215. Oh, yeah, Emma and Light Visions, they've been doing this for a long time. This thing, listen, this has practically become a hobby for them. This is like a pastime. I bet the coroner's office down there is probably wondering, why aren't we getting that many bodies in here? I think the sad part about this is that with all those bodies out there, between the fact that they did not notify the families about their loved ones really being dead, is the fact that even if they do, tell them that they're gone and they want to, get the body, the fact that they're identified by a number and not a name, it's going to be hard to identify them. Because one, there's no name attached to it, and two, they so badly decomposed, and if they didn't have any type of ID on them, then you would never know. That's why the family for Dexter Wade was fortunate, because he still had his wallet on him when they found him. That was the only way they were going to identify him. Was his wallet. If you didn't have any other type of identification on you to tell the people that's who you were, then they would have to guess who you were and hope that you were the one that they were looking for. Patricia said usually the coroner is in on it. Good point. Retro says they said some of the family thought they had moved away and they didn't know they were dead. Exactly. Again, the one that blew my mind the most was the one that was they said that they started looking for him in 2022 and didn't find out until the end of 2023 that they were dead. Imagine going a year and a half thinking your loved one is alive, but they just like maybe they went missing, or maybe you probably thought, oh, they probably are deceased because we can't find them now. Some people just give up hope. It is what it is. But to find out that not only are they deceased, but you've been lied to for all this time, and then find out that they were buried in a shallow grave, an unmarked one at that. Like bitches said, they didn't reach out to the family because they were getting away from it for years. And oh yes, and don't think for a second that they were doing this for free. I believe some people, somebody, some entities were paying them on the back end to do this. Because I don't think they were doing this for free. They was getting them palms greased, and they were nice and greasy. So I definitely believe there was some kind of financial incentive involved for them to do what they did. I highly doubt they did it for free. I have one more article, and then I'm going to drop the link for anybody who wants to come up and discuss. So this last article we're going to go through, that's coming from the Messenger, that was posted today, as a matter of fact. It was posted 2 hours ago. It says Mississippi County that buried 3 missing men in the pauper's grave without telling anyone now wants to restrict visitors to the burial site. Why would anybody want to go and see that? It says a logbook was recently released revealing that more than 600 people have been buried at the graveyard since 2008. Let me zoom in on that. Y'all, we thought 2016. No, we are now back in 2008. Do y'all see that? More than 600 people have been buried at the graveyard since 2008. In 2008, I was 19. I was a sophomore in college. Let's see what they're talking about here. Mississippi officials are officially tightly restricting visitors to access to a controversial pauper cemetery after families said their missing loved ones were buried in unmarked graves without their knowledge, according to a report. The Board of Supervisors on Tuesday will consider a motion that would require visitors at the Hinds County Pauper Cemetery, which is located near the Raymond Detention Center, submit to potential searches and seizures. Othor Kane, the public information officer to the Hinds County Sheriff's Department, told the station that the changes are intended to bolster the county's policies because of the attention the cemetery has received in the past few months. This is not a public graveyard. It's just like entering the detention center, he told WLBT. The public will still have access to it, but they will have to go through a search and seizure procedure. I don't know why anybody would want to just go there. I wouldn't want to go there. You know what this reminds me of? Imagine if they never found this and they built something on top of it. Who's seen the movie The Poltergeist? I'm going to leave it right there. Kane said the motion would likely be debated in an executive section instead of publicly. The station reported that it's unclear whether any lawsuits have been filed so far. Oh, they need to do more than file a couple of lawsuits. The cemetery has generated headlines and prompted increased scrutiny after at least 3 families came forward to say they learned that members of their families were buried there without their knowledge or consent. Earlier this month, a logbook for the cemetery revealed that more than 600 people had been interred at the graveyard since 2008. The names of the 3 men that were buried in the cemetery, Mario Moore, age 40, Jonathan Hankins, age 39, and Dexter Wade, age 37, are included in the database. This is some wild stuff right here. I know I shouldn't be shocked by anything that I talk about on here because I've talked about a lot, but and you got people out here that want to tell you that Dub S isn't real or that it's over. Point them in this direction right here. This has Dub S written all over it. Man, it's like, what can you tell the loved ones who found out about their not the love? What can you tell about the family of the loved ones who lost a loved one? What can you tell them when they find out something like this? You really can't say much of anything. Like, what is there to say? Jackal said, don't be shocked because that's what they do, and they will continue to do it. Well, maybe I should have said, instead of saying that, I should say I'm disturbed by it. I think that's a better way of putting it. Man. Yeah, someone down there definitely knows something. Somebody's knows something. Well, I put the link in the chat for anybody who would like to come up and discuss this rather morbid topic. I think another question I have is, after they have now discovered these graves, how many more do you think they're going to put there now that their secret is out? Or what they might end up doing is finding another location now that this location has been compromised. If anybody would like to come up, you can come on up. And also, by the way, if you are on X and you want to come over and jump on the panel, you will have to come on to YouTube in order to do that. Jekyll said, I tried to tell my colleagues about it before I left Mississippi, but I'm only one person. Hey, you did what you could. You did exactly what you could. All you can do is be the messenger. All they can do is heed the message or reject it. They decide to reject it. That's on them. Kendall said, imagine if it was the other way around and they found Dub S bodies in the graves they be having a fit. Of course they are. Listen, Kendall, you want to know what they having a fit about right now on X? The fact that the Delta handbook, the training manual, is capitalizing the words black and brown in the book and lowercasing the writing white in lowercase. They also on there complaining about how them folks are not included in the DEI sector of the Oscars as far as like the nomination goes. That's what they're arguing about on X right now. That's a high priority for them. Meanwhile, we just learned there's over 600 unmarked graves in Mississippi. That is a high level priority for them. And I will be talking about that at length on this upcoming Friday's live stream. I thought about doing it as a separate video, but I said, nah, I have so many videos backed up already. Let me just throw that into Fridays. No, Kid Gravity. I didn't see Wallow J come in here. I don't know if he's in here. Like I said, the link is posted right there at the top. If anybody would like to come up, Denise says she ain't coming up. She said she already knows how she gonna feel coming up here. So she said, I'm gonna just relegate to the chat today. And I'll understand, like I told you yesterday, this is gonna be a heavy hitting topic. It's gonna strike a lot of nerves. It's gonna trigger a lot of people. The fundraiser said, honestly, I highly doubt this isn't the only state doing this. Also, I wonder if all the police killings that aren't recorded are just there so they don't get charged for it. Oh, I have no doubt that there's other states doing this as well. It actually probably put other states on high alert. Well, maybe or maybe not, because they may drag their feet with that too. I'm just saying. Oh, okay. We got our first person. What's going on, Light Visions?
Hey,
Hey, how are you?
it's good to see you.
Good seeing you.
I've been real silent for a while, but yeah, it makes me wonder. There's probably a lot more police stations that have done this, and there's going to be many more graves. I mean, look at how you got to look at when soldiers have been found in shallow graves in the past,
Yeah.
and but the families didn't get no justice. You know, this has probably been happening for centuries. It's just
Definitely.
that it's being discovered, and then they're giving them a heads up right now with it coming out and everything because they can't do anything swift. These people are probably already preparing to stop working or to go left under the radar to try and protect themselves. You see what I'm saying? I
Yeah, definitely.
mean, and another thing is too, knowing that the way that they just like easily said, "Oh well, he got hit, and we just put him back there," and they're knowing
Exactly. Treated him like he was just nothing.
right, and it was like the fact. And the one thing about it that made me like, okay, so they know who did it, which police officer did it. They're not disclosing that information, but the fact that they know, oh, this is what happened. The police officer did this, and then they put him back there. Okay, which police officer? Okay, why isn't that police officer held accountable? Because that's not like an accident.
And let's make it let's make it plural, because it definitely wasn't one.
Yeah.
You can't tell me one person been doing this since 2008. This is something that has been carrying on. You got to think, since 2008, and it's now 2024, and they just now are starting to find those graves last year.
Right.
So this has been going on for, like, you're talking about like over 10 years. I'm just saying over 10 years, well over 10 years that this has been
Yeah.
going on. So this has been something that is almost like a ring. Like
And you know
they
what?
probably have an organization that they
Yeah.
created to go ahead and do it. And they probably each have a person that's doing particular things.
And I want to point something out too. You remember during I'm gonna just say the panoramic. You remember when
Yeah.
there was a lot of missing inmates, right?
Yeah.
Here we go, right here. But they were
Yeah.
saying it was due to that they got sick when they were in jail, and the families weren't able to see their loved ones, but because they claimed they got sick.
Yeah.
No, I think it was this right here.
And the irony is that this is behind a jail.
I think this is what,
So
and
yeah.
I don't know if I did come across another article relating to this, that some of the families thought it was due to that they weren't able to see their loved ones. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
that was a good cover for them.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, well, he got sick and this and that. No, y'all allowed him to get beat or, inside or whatever. And then you just put him out there. No. There was another story. I don't know if I'll have to send it to you, but there was just recent where this woman, her son had gotten beaten in prison. He had freshly got there, and she got a call from the inmates. They were like recording him live getting beat up, and she received a call. And she's a truck driver, right? She was trying to get there to the prison, and when she got there, they tried to act like nothing happened. And she didn't leave until she was able to talk to the actual who's the person that runs the prison. So she was able to talk to that person, and that person then told her, yes, this is what happened, and showed her son's body. Like they could have saved him. He could have got help, but they allowed what happened to him, and they were recording it. But she
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
able to. You see what I'm saying? Like these are things that are happening that they allow, but it's to them it's nothing. This is what they do, you know.
Now you see why. Now you see why I created my mantra of I feel nothing.
Yeah.
It all stems back to this. I'm like, how do you want me to feel a certain type of way about what's going on with you when you could give a damn about what's going on, with us? Like you just said, how they mentioned in the report. Oh, they just, he knocked him out and they buried him.
It's inhuman.
Like exactly, like just moving on. That's why I keep telling people that 3/5 compromise that they put in that Constitution way back when, it's
Yeah.
still very much active
I mean,
today.
and I want to say this, and I don't know if it might help, but like in Oklahoma, you have Indians. The Indians actually have their own justice system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why can't we? Why can't everybody have their own justice system? What's the problem with us having that? And I understand a lot of people might think, oh, well, our own are even against us. No, why can't we? Because at this point,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you
I
think?
agree. I agree. I hear everything that you're saying, and I definitely wholeheartedly agree that we have to have something in place, and we should. But the CBC, they want to do for everybody else. That's where it should. That's
I'm
really
not
where it
even
should.
worried. I understand what you're saying, but at this point, I'm not worried about that anymore because that is what is stopping us to even try. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm looking at is the fact that we have so many numbers of people who are willing to do this type of jobs, to actually be in that type of, who want to be police officers, who want to be doctors, who want to be, why don't we have our own? It's just that simple. I just don't. I just been thinking about this for a while. And
Another reason. Well, another reason why is because of integration.
yeah, I know. I get it.
Because remember when we had our own, we was thriving, but then we also know what happened when we were thriving too. It was like a double-edged sword. And it's like once we got in with the so-called dominant society and we thought everything was good, it really, really wasn't. They knew what they were going to benefit from, but we didn't realize at the time that we weren't going to benefit at all. And like, look at the position that
You're right.
we are in right now.
I mean, but this is what I want to say. And I understand, yes, that what we went through because of us trying to just have our own, right? There are many more laws that we could actually try to put in order to try this. That's just me looking at it. I'm not looking at it on a standpoint of, what happened. Like, I get what happened in the years, but now we have social media. We got all eyes now. I mean, I don't know. I see where you're saying it would make it complicated because of so many years of all of the, I guess, punishment and consequences we've been through. But the fact on this story, there's a lot more. There's going to be a lot more graves popping up, and I think they already know.
Yeah.
I think they already know.
The fact that I had to like go through a timeline of articles, like going back to the first one I could find to the most recent one, which was posted today. We started off with 1 body, then it went to 3, then that 3 turned to 200, then 215, and we ended up at over 600. Another article could pop up tomorrow, and it'll say, we found about 200 more.
Yeah, I want to tell you why swamps were created. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that swamps were created was to hide bodies. So there's probably bodies in swamps too.
Oh,
you got to think about that too.
Oh, definitely. You know what else was in them swamps too, right?
Yeah, alligators. And that's the reason.
And so not only just to hide the bodies down there, but to hide the evidence. The only way you're gonna find out if the body was down there is after the alligator dies and you open it up and you see the bones in there.
That's it. And you probably got lots of alligators feeding and off these items. So I mean, these are things that I've looked into when it came to stories like this. In some cities, they say that some swamps pop up out of nowhere. No, they didn't pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be put there. Those are placed there. Those are made and created. Those are man-made. Swamps are is something hard to make. So I don't know, but that's all I wanted to say. And like I said, we're gonna be looking for it. It's gonna be a whole lot more cemeteries pop up.
Exactly. But I appreciate you coming up.
Thank you.
All right, you have a good one. Shout out to Light Visions for coming up. Next up, we have Joseph Washington. What's going on?
Hey, Torian. Hey, chat room. Yeah, I came late to this live, but yeah, those unmarked graves. It's not surprising to me, and it's a downer to like see on the news. But at the same time, it's a good. I'm not gonna say it's good. I say it's a important moment of observation that we should take a look at. If you you said that they just found another unmarked grave in Mississippi.
Well, in the last art, I'm not sure when you came in, but when I started the stream off, they were talking about one or two that they found buried. Because if you remember, I talked about Dexter Wade. He was like one of the first at the time when I talked about him. I'm thinking it's just a one-off story, but who knew that when this came back around, he was included in that? I was like, wow. So that's like an interesting revelation. And then it went from him and another person named Mario Moore. Then they added in another person. So now you're at 3. Then they come out and say, oh, we found 215. And I was like, that's a huge gap from 3 to 215. And then in the last article, they said dating back to 2008, they found over 600 in that same location.
Wow.
So imagine where they might have buried other people in shallow graves that's not at that location.
Don't be surprised if you find some in construction sites. And I noticed that around Maryland and certain construction areas, like, when they try to make like a new housing development or a new business or a new condo for like, these migrants to come in, I've noticed that a lot of construction has stopped because they probably surveyed the area and might have found something unseemly that if they were to start construction and unearth some of the stuff to remove the debris to put new materials in there, they might, to use a cliche, open Pandora's box to something that they have tried to bury for the longest. So, yeah. And I understand what Light Visions is coming from about us enforcing, having our own justice system to enforce punishment for those who not only do us harm, but bury these unmarked graves right under our noses. Honestly, it would be possible if it were the Wild Wild West, but unfortunately, we are under the United States Constitution, and it's a 2-tiered system.
Right.
So, I understand, yes, we need that. But you know what's crazy? And it's going to happen in the future. I place no doubt about it. We just got to stay on our square and keep an eye on stories like this and just observe like what's going on like around your city. Like I just brought up, certain construction projects being stopped because they might have found some stuff that they don't want to bring to light. So, yeah. I just wanted to come up and share that. And thanks again to you and the New Black Media Sphere for keeping us up to date with stories like this.
Oh, no problem. I definitely had to. Like I had said before, one of my subscribers had mentioned that they had wanted me to talk about this. I said, if I do it, it's definitely going to have to be in the form of a live stream because as you can see, this was a lot.
And it is. And it's a nice roundtable discussion to have, like, offline. Anyway, thanks for having me up.
No problem. Thanks for coming up. All right, the next and last person I'm going to bring up to the stage, y'all already know who it is. We got Afro Elite. What's going on?
How you doing, Torian?
I'm doing good.
First off, I want to thank you for making this subject. I was thinking about making it some days ago, but I wasn't really feeling well, so I'm glad that you're making it because stories like this tend to get swept under the rug, you know what I'm saying? And this is a really big deal, you know, and nobody's talking about it. And you know, something I've noticed, the sister Light Visions, I think her name was, brought it up, was like nobody's really like dropping any names as to who is responsible, because if this went on from 2008 all the way so really recently, which is when we discovered it, that means that it was a whole bunch of names, powerful names, who are in charge of maintaining this, making sure it didn't get out to the public or whatever the case is. And all of the articles, they're talking about the situation and how bad it is. But notice how none of them are trying to like point the finger at the police sheriff, the warden, the mayor, or the governor, or any, like, there are no names. Nobody's bringing up any names as to who should be punished for this.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of hands. It's a lot of hands on it. And like you said, it's a lot. Like you said, it's probably a lot of powerful hands on it. Because I said, you're not about to insult my intelligence and say a phantom did it.
No. And like that one cop, who murdered that guy, you know, folks don't want to name drop him, but first off, he didn't dig the graves by himself. So they were clearly, it's a prison, they were clearly having the prisoners dig the graves, right? So that means that there was somebody in charge of making sure it didn't get out to the public. There was someone in charge of making sure, I guess, the prisoners, assuming it was them, didn't run away. And so this must have been the only way it could have lasted this long realistically is if this was a whole big orchestrated thing. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I had said.
So somebody needs to be punished for this. Some like, I don't know if it's the governor, because I guess it's a state prison, so that's the governor's responsibility. So whoever the governor is now somebody needs to be held responsible for this situation. And I noticed that all of the articles, because I was even looking them up, and all of the articles, none of them are really like saying this person should be punished or locked up or even fired. Nobody's even talking about even, firing anybody. You know what I'm saying, over this.
Right.
It's just oh man, what a tragedy. Like this is an accident or something like that.
For sure.
So
it's definitely it. Like I said, this has a lot of questions that need answering, and of course they go and tap dance around it and try to make it seem like like they don't know. Trust me, this has been going on since 2008. You definitely know something. The people down, like you said, it's something very orchestrated. It's ran like an organization. They had this thing running well until it got discovered. And like I said, this is just this one. Who knows? They probably got other ones scattered around the state.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's keep in mind, this is also the same state that allowed Brett Favre to get away with being the welfare king that he is.
That's true. And then I'm also hearing that all of them weren't even prisoners either. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm hearing that I don't know, because with cases like this, you hear a lot of extra stuff, and then a lot of people try to put their spin on stuff, but you don't know what to really believe with this type of situation now.
Yeah, because they're gonna tell you. Because they're gonna tell you anything, and hope that you believe whatever it is that they say. I don't believe nothing they say. I do know that there are over 600 bodies buried out there, though, because we saw the markers. That thing said, when I saw that thing that says 672, I was like, they knocking people off like roadkill. It's almost like they're going hunting, or as they like to call it, nigga hunting. That's basically what they're going, and they're using different methods. Like one of them got hit by a car, and I think that was very intentional. This guy got hit by a car. The other one got beat to death. They said with a blunt object, and they just buried him.
It's very disturbing. It's very disturbing. Yeah. I mean, you had a loss of words, but all I can say is somebody needs to be held accountable. Somebody needs to be punished for this.
I wouldn't even put it past them to say that the ones that they killed were targeted. I wouldn't even say that they were random, because they probably have some kind of a database somewhere.
I would agree. I mean, for them to do this for this long, I mean, since 2008, you've been doing this for this long. It has to be more organized than just randomly killing somebody and bury. You can't. It can't be random. You have to be more organized in order for you to get away with it for such a long time. You know, so I would agree with you.
And for all we know, these could also be things. Before I even go into that, they only say where they buried at. They were found buried behind a jail in Mississippi, in shallow, unmarked graves. They said they were so shallow. I don't know. You was here for the whole stream.
I think I came like 10 minutes late, 15 or 10 minutes late.
Okay, then you probably heard the part when he was talking about the buzzards.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because he said they weren't embalmed. And they were shallow graves, so they weren't buried 6 feet deep. So they were very surface level to the point where you could probably dig them out with your hands.
Yeah.
Because of the smell. And they was like, why are buzzards flying over? Because only buzzards fly over when they smell something dead, because that's what they eat. They eat carcasses. But yeah, so that's pretty much what it is. But yeah, it's definitely orchestrated. 600 plus since 2008. Yeah, they definitely orchestrated this and worked together as a unit in order to make this happen, and unfortunately did a good job of keeping it hush hush for this long.
Yeah.
And like people were saying before, it's definitely most likely happening in other states as well. It's not just in Mississippi. And I have the feeling that that's not the only location in Mississippi where this is most likely happening. I think somebody, Kendall, had wrote in the chat, remember what happened in Tulsa when they found all those bodies that was there from what happened back in 1921, and they were buried underneath the new structures?
Yeah.
I think they found them. What was it? Was it last year, the year before last? I can't remember when it was, but it was recent. Shout out to Monique for the $20 super sticker. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, that's and I know you're wrapping up and everything like that. I wanted to say thank you for doing this whole story, because stories like this get swept under the rug, and blink and you'll miss it and we'll never hear about it or anything like that. This goes to show, when people say we need to fund the police more, give the police more money, and then this is what you see, because the police got to be in on it. They're
definitely
people with their cars, so
yeah, definitely
they're all in on it. You know what I'm saying? So this is what happens when you give them more money. They start digging more graves and start putting missing, quote unquote, missing people in there. So.
Just like when, remember, it was like a whole it was a time when they had came out with a list or some kind of bulletin where they said that this year or this month or this time of the year, this many Black children, Black people, men, women, or whoever were missing. And it's like they just put it out there, and it was like, so you're just now putting this out there, and some of them have been missing for God knows how long, and we're just now finding out that they're missing. Usually a missing report is supposed to go out after 48 hours. Why are we finding out 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months later that they were missing? That means y'all decided to put them out there now that they've been missing, because you probably already done with their bodies what you needed to do. So let's just go and say they're missing now. So now you can go and find them. Now you have our permission to go and find them.
Yeah.
Because we were still doing stuff with whatever we were doing at the time when they were initially missing, and we didn't need you on our trail.
Yeah.
And shout out to Scoop 2003 for the super sticker.
Because at the end, when they do those missing reports or whatever, people who understand about like missing peoples and stuff like that, after the third day, the likelihood that the person is dead has just like increased dramatically. You know, so you multiply that by like 2-3 times a whole month or two, you know what I'm saying? There's almost no chance at all that any of these people that they put on this list are alive. You know what I'm saying? The chances are pretty much gone that they're alive. And more than likely, if they're not alive, they're probably already decayed or something like that. You're probably never really actually going to even find their bodies at that point, especially if you're just starting to look for them. You just realize they've gone missing. Then now you're just starting to look for them. This is never gonna. And they did that deliberately. They did that deliberately.
Right.
You know, that was on purpose.
Exactly. You got anything else?
So no, man. I just wanted to get on here because I wanted to say something about this topic. So I'm glad that you were able to, you know, make a live stream about this topic too. I want to get on and give my opinions about that because somebody needs to be held accountable, even though we know what system we live in. So they're not really going to hold anybody accountable, but that doesn't change the fact that it still should happen.
Exactly.
So that's what I got to say. Thank you for taking my call.
All right, no problem. Thanks for coming up. Shout out to Afro Elite for coming up. And this is going to wrap up this stream right here. Shout out to everybody that came through. Shout out to the contributors of the stream, Monique 28256, as well as Scoop 2003. Shout out to everybody who was watching over on Instagram as well as on X. Shout out to the people that came up and spoke. Shout out to the patrons on Patreon, the members as well. The people on Instagram who send me stories, on Twitter who send me stories, on Discord who send me stories. I appreciate all of that as well. We will be back on here tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern time, of course, for the daily upload. And with that being said, y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Be safe and be one.